Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Phil Giraldi will be with us in just a moment on how is it that Israel has such control over American foreign policy. But first, this.
You all know that I am a paid spokesperson for Lear Capital, but I'm also a customer, a very satisfied customer. About a year ago, I bought gold, and it's now increased in value 23%. So $100 invested in gold a year ago is now worth $123. If you have $100 in the bank, it still shows $100, but $100 in the bank is now worth 24% less. Inflation has reduced all of your savings, all of your buying power, and mine, by 24%. And gold is largely immune from that. If you want to learn how gold will soon hit $3,200 an ounce, call Lear Capital, 800-511-4620, or go to LearJudgeSnap.com. Get your free gold report. Same experts who predicted the 23% rise that I've enjoyed have predicted this $3,200 an ounce gold. Learn about how to transfer this to an IRA. Protect your savings. 800-511-4620, LearJudgeSnap.com. Tell them the judge sent you.
Phil Giraldi, welcome here, my dear friend. How is it that American Middle East foreign policy has been managed by American Jews at the present time, one of whom was born in Israel, fought for the IDF, and today has joint Israeli-American citizenship? And this seems to happen no matter who the president is or which party controls Congress.
Well, this has been particularly evident ever since 9/11. Basically, you recall, as I recall, that we had a group of American Jews who were largely in control of the Pentagon. I'm talking about Wolfowitz, I'm talking about Feith, and also in the Vice President's office, Scooter Libby. And they basically did everything they could to start a war with Iraq. And the reasoning behind starting a war with Iraq was not because Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, as our good friend Scott Ritter would confirm, but rather because Iraq, the Saddam Hussein, was supporting the Palestinians. And when the Israelis were arresting Palestinians, Saddam Hussein would support the families of those people arrested. And they were very, very angry about this. It was a major issue for the Israelis at that time. So at that time, we wound up going to war with Iraq for no reason whatsoever, except that Israel wanted it. And this has persisted. But the point that I've been trying to make is that this has really gone far beyond what we saw in the years 2001 to 2003. And it's at the point now where our liberties are under attack, where this law, the anti-Semitism law that was recently introduced, is intended to shut down all criticism of Israel. It accepts a definition of criticism of Israel being ipso facto anti-Semitism. And we also have 35 states in the United States that punish people in one way or another who will not sign a statement or agree to a statement that they will not support boycotts or other action against Israel. So in other words, states are stepping in to deny American citizens and citizens of those states benefits, jobs, and this is all going on. This has accelerated the process of Israel and Israel's partisans in the government running the show. I've seen estimates of the senior appointments in the current presidential administration that 70% of them at the senior level are Jewish. And almost all of them that do national security and foreign policy are Jewish. So you have Jewish people with a vested interest in Israel deciding what the United States policies will be vis-a-vis Israel.
And this happens no matter who's president or which party controls the Congress.
Yeah, it's just a variation on how they play it and who's providing the money and the corruption. With Donald Trump, of course, it was Sheldon Adelson, and now his wife Miriam, who's offering, according to news reports, has offered Donald Trump $100 million in a campaign contribution. But the quid pro quo is that Trump has to go along completely with the Israeli government taking over all of what was historic Palestine. In other words, there will be no two-state solution. There will be only one-state solution, and it will be Jewish.
Chris, let's play number 13. Who is this person, Phil?
Hezbollah's increasing aggression is bringing us to the brink of what could be a wider escalation, one that could have a devastating consequence.
All right, my mistake. That's the admiral in the IDF who's the Israeli spokesperson. This is the American diplomat I want you to identify. I'm sorry, Chris, my fault. Number 12.
The conflict along the blue line between Israel and Hezbollah has gone on for long enough. Innocent people are dying, property is damaged, families are shattered, and the Lebanese economy continues to decline. The country is suffering for no good reason. It's in everyone's interest to resolve it quickly and diplomatically. That is both achievable and it is urgent.
Who is Amos Hochstein?
He's the special envoy, and of course, he is, as you say, Israeli-born, and essentially, it's again a ridiculous appointment. Why would anyone wanting to basically support U.S. national interests in the Middle East appoint an Israeli Jew as one of the chief envoys? He's the chief envoy in terms of dealing with Lebanon. And as you can see from what he just said, basically he is blaming Lebanon for what is going on in the region, whereas many people would quite differently interpret what has been the dynamic there for the last 50 years. And this is typical.
What is going on in the region now at the West Bank and the Israeli border with Lebanon?
Well, basically, the Israelis are hoping to bring America into the loop on their own intentions, their own interests in terms of defeating Hezbollah, which they have concerns about because Hezbollah has proven to be a very effective fighting force, and also to go after what they see as the Iranian surrogates in the region in places like Syria, and essentially to get rid of the Palestinian entity as a political entity in their own borders, or what they see as their own borders. So this is essentially it. They want to be the big dog in the game in that region, and it requires the United States to take out their enemies because they can't do it themselves.
Israel and the Netanyahu government hope to spread their borders to what they call Greater Israel. We were using this phrase a few months ago, from the river to the sea, but that includes not only Gaza, but the West Bank. And Hezbollah is determined to be certain, make sure that this doesn't happen, at least with respect to the West Bank. Do I have that right?
Well, you have it essentially right, yeah. But Lebanon is a target too. When Israelis speak of Greater Israel, they're not stopping with Palestine. They are interested in obtaining the water resources of southern Lebanon. In fact, they fought a war over that in the 1980s. You might think back, and they are also interested in parts of Jordan to have control of the Jordan River on both banks, They're also interested, according to some accounts, in invading Egypt and moving all the way to the Nile River. So this is a fantasy to a large extent. But when the real extreme right wing Israelis speak of Greater Israel, that's what they're talking about.
Is Tony Blinken hopelessly conflicted like this person, Amos Hochstein, that works for him?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, he's the source, I think, of the contagion. Every time he opens his mouth, it's to blame Hamas and to blame the Gazans for what's going on without ever condemning Israel. I haven't heard him condemn Israeli behavior. Israelis are killing all these, 37,000 is the count I guess I saw this morning dead, plus a number of thousands still buried in the rubble. And this is going on every day. It's hardly even reported in the U.S. media anymore. And the killing just goes on and on. And Netanyahu has basically said that his intention is to keep the fighting going, probably till the end of the year, which will kill tens of thousands more people.
What became of President Biden's three-step ceasefire suggestion, the one that Admiral Kirby repeatedly insists was originated with the Israelis?
Well, the Israelis have denied it. And in fact, Hamas has basically welcomed it with certain conditions to make sure that this would not be a trapdoor where you make some concessions to the Israelis in terms of hostages and other things, and basically they just keep the fighting going anyway, which appears to be the intention. And today, a little while ago, Netanyahu dropped the bomb on Joe Biden. He said it would be inconceivable that the United States should ever stop giving Israel the weapons that it needs. So this is the boss telling the kid, go out and shovel snow.
I'm going to switch gears slightly. Are candidates for the Congress asked by AIPAC and other groups to sign pre-election pledges in support of Israel?
Yes, according to some congressmen. Traficant from Ohio back some years ago made that claim. Cynthia McKinney has made that claim. As soon as you're running for office for Congress, a friendly AIPAC person shows up in your office and asks what your intentions are in terms of policy towards Israel. And if you give the wrong answer, you find that you're being confronted by a well-funded opponent who is a friend of Israel and is also getting good media coverage. So they've managed to get rid of a lot of congressmen, Traficant and McKinney, by this kind of stuff. And there are a ton of others. William Fulbright, for example. This is a common trait of the Israel lobby. You come up with a lot of money and you use that money to buy candidates. And if you can't buy them, you buy someone else as your candidate. And pretty soon you have what we have now in the U.S. Congress, which is Knesset East. We are owned on foreign policy by Israel. Nobody dares stand up against Israel except a few voices in the progressive wing of the Democratic Party and Tom Massey. And it's frightening. Our system is being taken over. It's being managed. And we get people like Ariel Sharon making the claim that don't worry about the United States. We Jews own the United States and the Americans know it. And we have our current Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, saying things like, oh, don't worry about the United States. It's easily moved.
Congressman Massey, a Republican of Kentucky, probably the successor to Ron Paul amongst the few libertarians with courage in the House of Representatives, told me on my Newsmax show what he also told Tucker Carlson, and that is that AIPAC approaches nearly every member of Congress and proposes a minder, a monitor, a person to hang out with you, to answer your questions, to help you out, to guide you, obviously to guide you towards supporting Israel. Congressman Massey has refused such a minder, but I imagine very few other members of Congress have made this refusal.
Yeah, the minder is as I understand it, is in the form of a staffer. So it's a staffer that's appointed to the staffs of the congressman. And this is somebody that's deliberately put in by AIPAC. And his job, of course, is not only to advise the congressman, but also to advise AIPAC if the congressman is not doing enough for Israel. So this is like a two-edged sword. And Massey actually went on to say, he says that he may be the only Republican congressman who doesn't have a minder.
Wow. Here's Congressman Massey with Tucker Carlson.
Everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What does that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for AIPAC.
Oh. He told me the same thing. He also told me that members of Congress have slush funds that allow them to pay off those who complain about sexual harassment, and there's no record of the payment. That, of course, violates the Constitution, which specifically says no monies shall be appropriated from the public treasury except that which is recorded in a public journal. But are you saying, Phil, that somehow AIPAC gets these people appointed to the congressman? In other words, Massey was told so-and-so is going to work on your staff, and when he figures out who so-and-so is, he's got to fire the person. Who decides who the so-and-so is?
Well, the hiring of staffers for congressmen is pretty much like largely up to the congressman. I mean, they have fairly free hand to hire people, and if somebody from AIPAC shows up and basically is he's doing two things. He's saying, oh, well, be with us and we will help you. You will get campaign contributions. You will get good media. You will get a lot of things that would be really good for your career. So they're saying that on one side, and on the other side, they're saying if you don't do this, then then there's a problem, and we want you to take our staffer in here, and that's one of the first things we want you to do, to make sure that if he can explain to you things that about Israel and about why we support Israel the way we do, well, they'll be there to help you.
Does Mossad spy on Americans?
Oh. I'm trying to think of a metaphor that compares to that. And anyway, there are a few, but they're obscene. Yeah, Mossad constantly spies on Americans. I remember in my time in the agency, where I used to talk to some officers who had served in Israel, and the spying on them was constant, and their quarters were bugged with microphones. Their cars were bugged. The spying was constant, and they also spy on Congress. Now, you remember back a few years ago when I believe it was the FBI discovered that there were a bunch of radio transmitters located in electrical lights, street lights and that sort of thing all around Capitol Hill and near the White House. And these were planted to be able to pick up telephone conversations and that sort of thing. And that was done by Israel.
Why does the United States tolerate this? Isn't it the job of the FBI to protect us from foreign agents spying on us?
Well, with the exception of Israel. That's the problem. Israel gets a free pass on almost everything. And as I say, this investigation, it was back a few years ago, never went anywhere, as I recall. Although somebody in the FBI slipped up and said, yes, it was Israel that did it, which was kind of an embarrassment. But it's a given. They spy on us. Some stories that are coming through now about how they're manipulating media and also sort of social services online with fake personas who are spreading stories that are denigrating um, anybody who Israel considers an enemy, and are encouraging good stories to appear about Israel. So this is a major effort, and it's ongoing.
What has Israel done as a country for the United States as a country?
Well, it's taken a lot of our money and spent it. It's used a lot of our weapons to kill Muslims. I mean, apart from that, I can't think of too much that Israel has ever done for us. When I was still in the intelligence services, there used to be this myth that was propagated by certain congressmen, Tom Lantos, including and among them, and this myth was that Israel was a wonderful source of intelligence information needed by the United States. And whenever I had a chance to talk to people who actually saw the intelligence that was being circulated as being important coming from Israel, they said it was all fabricated. And I heard that from numerous people in the grapevine, and when I was still in the loop. And it's just my answer to you is, what has Israel ever done for us? Nothing.
Does the Mossad spy on the White House?
Well, why would they have to? They've got their guy there.
Well, they may want to hear his mumblings to the extent they're decipherable.
Well, he was banging heads with the Pope the other day. I mean, maybe he was ordered to do that.
Well, in the Obama days, did the White House did Mossad spy on the White House?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it would have been probably mostly technical type collection, which is what these lampposts and lights and everything were
And
too.
the FBI, which works for the president, and the NSA, which works for the president, and the CIA, which works for the president, did nothing about it.
Well, no. I mean, obviously, we're the political equity that a guy like Obama, who was constantly on the receiving end from the Israelis because it was felt that he was too sympathetic to people like the Iranians. Um, yeah, I mean, he was probably nervous about taking on the Israelis in any way, and certainly Donald Trump was wholehearted in in encouraging the Israelis to do whatever they wanted, and that's what we're seeing today. I mean, this is my concern is that this has gotten worse. You know, 10 years ago, if you looked at the Israelis in the wake of 9/11 and in the war on terror and so on and stuff, there was a lot of this going on, but somehow it was managed a little more carefully. But now it's blatant. I mean, the Israelis tell the U.S. government to hop, and it hops.
Wow. What do you think will happen after the completion of the slaughter in Rafah?
Well, I think the Israelis have made it clear what their intention is. Their intention is to basically control what remains of Gaza, or what can be restored using Russian money, which we're going to confiscate, I guess, like everything else. And they're going to turn it into, either luxury resorts for Israelis, or they're going to create some kind of managed situation where the Gazans will be encouraged to leave. And what few of them are left will be basically indentured servants and that sort of thing. And so it will be part of Israel. And clearly, if Trump is elected and Miriam has her way, it could well be that all of Palestine will be Israel.
Did Trump and Mrs. Adelson enter into that deal, or are they still negotiating, as far as you know?
As far as I know, they're still talking about it, but it's a ton of money. And of course, her husband gave a similar sum to Trump. And that's when Trump made the decision to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and recognize Jerusalem as the Israeli capital, which, of course, is illegal under international law.
Right. Phil Giraldi, thank you. I'm sorry everything we talk about is so unpleasant, but you're a beacon of light to the extent that you reveal all of this stuff with such intellectual precision and personal courage. Thank you, my dear friend.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you again soon. See you next week as usual.
Right.
Coming up at 3 o'clock Eastern, Karen Kwiatkowski, and at 5 o'clock Eastern, Ryan Dawson. Is there a surprise awaiting Prime Minister Netanyahu when he visits Congress next month? Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.